Welcome back, friends, to Build Lot Acres. In today's video, we're going to be talking about one of the most useful and economical tractor attachments that you can buy. So when it comes to the world of tractors, attachments and implements can transform your tractor into a whole different beast. And there's a lot of different types of tractor attachments and implements, as well as a huge price range for these implements. So in the world of tractor attachments, there's some real expensive options out there. There's things like forestry mulchers, there's all kinds of specialty grapples, there's stump grinders, there's all kinds of expensive, heavy, intricate tractor attachments and implements that are really cool, but let's be honest, they're also really expensive. They can be hard to hook up, and they do require your tractor to have certain traits and features, such as certain hydraulics and hookups, to run these expensive and intricate attachments. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about one of the simplest, cheapest attachments that you can get for pretty much any tractor, and it's going to transform it into a whole different animal. And that attachment, of course, is going to be a set of 3-point forks. I'm going to give you my positives and negatives to owning a set of forks like this, and some things you might want to consider if you're thinking about getting a set for yourself. But as I already alluded to, I think probably the biggest benefit to a set of forks like this over a lot of other tractor attachments is going to be the price point. These 3-point forks are from Agri Supply. It's an online company. I think there are also stores in different parts of the country. There's none near me. They only have online catalogs, but it's basically kind of like a tractor supply company type store. And if you look these up today, they're actually around $319. When I bought these Agri Supply forks maybe 7 or 8 years ago, they were $199. So they have gone up quite a bit, as has most every other thing that you buy. But for $319, these are still a great deal, and they're one of the cheapest tractor attachments you can find on the market. So in addition to being really cheap to buy, these 3-point forks are also really easy to move around by yourself. Compared to a lot of 3-point Category 1 tractor implements, these are really lightweight. These Agri Supply forks, although they're rated for 2,000 pounds lift capacity, which is going to be plenty for most tractors, they only weigh 107 pounds. So if you had to move these around, or even if you wanted to put these in the back of a pickup truck or a trailer, maybe move them to another job or let someone borrow them, they're pretty easy to move around, and they'll fit in a lot of different vehicles. You could even put these in the back of a minivan or something to move them around. You can't say that for most tractor attachments. Another great feature about 3-point forks is you don't need complicated hydraulics or specialized equipment to run them. Pretty much any tractor with a 3-point hitch is going to be able to use a set of forks like this. So if you have an older tractor, something like a Ford 8N or a 9N, or an old farm tractor that's 2-wheel drive, doesn't have a set of loader arms or a bucket, but you have a 3-point hitch, this can transform your tractor into a whole different beast. And that's where I think the KISS principle really shines. Keep it simple, stupid. That basically means you don't need to get overly complicated and extravagant on things. And if you notice, a lot of the items that I showcase in the channel for different tractor attachments are usually cheap things that pretty much anyone can buy. A lot of them are homemade attachments, such as my wooden roof canopy for this tractor. I also have different things where I turn an IBC cage into a work platform, which, by the way, you could use on a set of forks like this. But a lot of channels are going to showcase these $10,000 attachments, and yeah, they're really cool, but how many people watching can really afford those attachments? So I try to showcase things that your average man or woman is going to be able to afford and use. So say you have a tractor like a Ford 8N or 9N, like I mentioned. Maybe you need to load logs onto a sawmill, or maybe you want to pick your logs up in the air a foot or two, just so it's easier to buck them into firewood. Maybe you need to move pallets and different things around your yard. Maybe you need to load something heavy into the back of a pickup truck or onto a trailer. You don't always need to pick up 5, 6, 7 feet with your set of forks. Sometimes 2 feet is all you need to get that job done. Another positive to consider is, in my opinion, picking things up with your 3-point hitch is safer than picking things up with your loader arms, especially if you have a small tractor with small tires, maybe a narrow footprint, maybe you don't have a lot of weight on or in those tires. So if you're going on, side hills or something like that, it can be real risky picking up heavy things with the front loader arms and a set of forks. So I think in general, especially for smaller tractors, a rear set of forks is going to be a whole lot safer than a set of front forks. So another big benefit to a set of 3-point forks like this over a standard set of forks in your front of your tractor and your loader arms, at least for me in this tractor setup, has got to be visibility. I can see these forks and drive them into fork slots in something like an IBC cage much easier than I can in the front because I don't have a big hood blocking my line of sight. Sometimes in the front, you almost have to stand up to get a better look. Guys that are used to operating skid steers probably don't have that problem due to the shape of the skid steer and how far the hood sticks out. You can see a lot better and your line of sight is fine. But with a lot of tractors with big long hoods, it can be hard to see your front set of forks. And these are much easier. Yes, you do have to turn your head backwards to see, but you can see a whole lot easier driving this into a pallet or something with fork slots than you can on the front. So I think the last big positive I'm going to talk about is going to be weight capacity. Even if your tractor has a set of loader arms and forks in the front, most every tractor I've ever operated has a larger weight capacity on the 3-point than it does in the front loader arms. So you can pick up more weight, and that few 100 pounds difference might be enough to be the deciding factor of whether or not you can pick something up. So the weight capacity on the rear is going to be higher than the front. So that's another big plus in my opinion. So now that we've talked about some of the positives about these forks, there are some negatives that I think we should mention. Now, obviously, the first one is going to be you can only go up to a certain height. I can go up to about 25, 26 inches with this 3-point hitch. Now, obviously, the size of your tractor is going to dictate how high your 3-point hitch will lift. Smaller the tractor, smaller the tires, the lower it will pick up. The bigger the tractor, bigger the tires, the higher it will pick up. But your average size tractor is probably going to get somewhere around 18 to 24 inches or so, which is high enough to do a lot of chores, like I said, loading a sawmill or picking up a pallet off the ground or transport it around your yard. So another downside to these set of forks over something like a lot of your front forks, at least for this set, is going to be they are a fixed width. These are about 29 3/4 to the outside, 21 5/8 on the inside. So I believe they do make 3-point forks to their adjustable widths. They probably make all kinds of 3-point forks that you can get, but those are probably also going to be considerably heavier and more money than a set like this. Today's video is really trying to keep it as simple and cheap as possible and still get a lot of the functions that forks are going to give you. That is another big benefit to most of your front forks over a set of 3-point forks like this, is that for the majority of them, 3-point forks are not width adjustable. Now, another big negative to a set of forks like this over a front set of forks is you can't dump these forks like you can a front set of forks. So take, for instance, my firewood box, which I have videos of me making it on the channel and using it. I put firewood in that box because it holds a lot more than a loader bucket, and I still want the ability to dump out my firewood if I'm bringing it to a pile or putting it into a big trailer. So you really can't dump these forks. I suppose there probably are ways that you could be creative and make a dumping platform that would work on this set of forks, but the average person probably isn't going to be doing that. So that is another big negative to consider, is these forks really don't have the ability to dump like a loader forks would do. So now that we've kind of gone over some of the pros and cons of having a set of 3-point forks, what are some of the potential uses you could use these forks for? I'm going to give you a whole kind of host of different ideas, and let me know if you think they're good ideas. So the first one is going to be using this for firewood chores and logging. If you need to pick up logs, like I said, to buck them into firewood, just to transport them maybe to your wood yard, maybe you could pick them up enough to get them onto a flatbed trailer. These are really handy for firewood chores if you want to pick up, totes, cages, or even if you want to pick up something like IBC containers full of firewood, the metal cages I've used on the channel and showcase. I have videos discussing the benefits of the IBC containers. You can pick those up real easy with a set of forks like this. In fact, I've picked up 2 330-gallon IBC containers at the same time, double stacked, with this set of forks, and it handled it just fine. So that 2,000-pound rating, I think, is real conservative. I think if your tractor has a real beefy hydraulic system and your 3-point hitch has a large capacity, I think you could anticipate picking up more than 2,000 pounds with these forks. But of course, the manufacturer has to err on the side of caution, so they're going to give you a conservative number just to be safe. And sticking with wood themes, I do think sawmilling type chores are also going to be really handy with this. Again, moving logs onto the sawmill, or maybe if you, after you mill your boards and you have all your lumber, you could stack your lumber on these forks, transport them to a different area. There's a whole host of chores involving wood that you could use a set of forks like this for. And then of course there's general moving of different things on pallets, whether it's maybe, heavy equipment, engine blocks, attachments for your tractor. Maybe you keep your rototiller or, a stump grinder or something on a pallet and you want to move it around your property. You can easily pick up pallets with these set of forks and move them around where you need to. So another great use you could use this 3-point fork for is a work platform. Yes, you're going to be limited in height, but if you've seen my IBC work platform that I made, it's basically a 330-gallon IBC cage, and then the platform is maybe 2/3 of the way up, so somewhere around 36 inches, let's say 32 to 36 inches off the bottom of that cage. So you have 3 feet, plus you have about 2 feet that this picks up. So you're going to be about 5 feet in the air to your feet, and obviously size of your tractor is going to differ. So you could reach, 4 to 5 feet off the ground for your work platform. For most tractors, I would say with a set of 3-point forks and something like my IBC work platform. So no, it's not going to reach every job. The higher up jobs, you might need a ladder or maybe your front of your tractor, but it's a whole lot safer, in my opinion, working out of a platform with a box or something around your waist than it is working off of a step ladder or an extension ladder. So I think that's about going to do it for today's video on one of the cheapest, simplest, most economical tractor attachments you can get, and that's a 3-point set of forks. Let me know if you enjoyed the video. Let me know if there's anything I missed. See you next time.